The wind on Hollow Reach was a petty thief. It stole moisture from your tongue, heat from your skin, and if you stood still long enough, your patience. The planet was technically a moon, one of the outer shards orbiting the gas giant Tyros, but planet just sounded better in a story. And Jace Halrow was a man who lived for stories, especially the kind that made him sound slightly braver, slightly taller, and significantly less likely to vomit during turbulence. He stepped out from behind the jagged hull of a downed freighter, boots crunching on rust-colored gravel that crumbled like burnt sugar. His hand hovered above the holster on his hip, though honestly the only thing in it was a broken stunner and half a packet of nicotine gum. His other hand, holding up a piece of fruit he'd found that looked suspiciously like a kiwi crossed with a cactus. He took a bite. It hissed. He spat it out. "Note to self," he muttered. "If it makes a sound, maybe don't eat it." The wind answered with a scream that wasn't quite wind. Then she appeared. She moved like a threat dressed in poetry, fluid, deliberate, and utterly humorless. Her armor shimmered with interlocking hex panels, gold and slate, and her face was both striking and unreadable. Her ears, long and slightly curved backward, like the sails of ancient ships, marked her as not from around here. She stood 6 feet away and pointed something that definitely wasn't a hello at his chest. "You are Jace Halrow," she said, her accent turning consonants into tiny threats. "Depends," he replied, scratching his jaw. "Are you here to arrest me, marry me, or kill me?" She didn't blink. "Duel." "Oh, good," Jace said. "The flirty kind or the stabby kind?" She didn't answer. Instead, she took a step forward and activated a blade that ignited in her hand like a whisper catching fire. Sleek, violet, and humming with promise. "Right," Jace said. "Stabby it is." He stepped back, thinking. There were a lot of things he was good at. Sarcasm, improvising, pretending to know what buttons not to press. But dueling ranked somewhere between understanding tax law and winning a dance-off with a battle droid. Still, bluffing was a close cousin of bravery, so he reached for his coat sleeve, pretending to adjust it. That's when it happened. The tattoo. It flared, soft blue light coiling in spirals across his forearm like some ancient constellation, suddenly remembering its purpose. The alien woman froze. The blade in her hand flickered, dimmed. Her eyes widened, not in fear, but in recognition so sharp it might as well have drawn blood. Jace blinked. "Wait, do you know this thing? Because if it means free sandwich, I've been really underusing it." She didn't speak. She just stared. At him, at the mark. And something in her expression, calculation edged with disbelief, told him this was no ordinary, "Oops, you've stumbled into an alien duel" situation. Then she whispered, almost to herself, "The echo lives." Jace took a cautious step back. "Okay, I don't know what that means, but it sounds way too dramatic for the situation. I'm just a guy trying to make a few credits and maybe not die on a weekday." The wind howled again. Behind them, the crashed freighter groaned. The silence stretched between them like a tripwire. Neither one moved. Neither one lowered their weapon. Jace looked at her, then down at the glowing tattoo. "All right," he said. "So, we talking pause and duel, or new rules? Because I am very much in favor of hugging it out at this point." She didn't answer, but the fire in her blade had gone out, and so it seemed had something else. The moment, the mission, the certainty. Whatever game had just begun, he wasn't the only one who didn't know the rules. The two of them stood in the settling dust like statues who just realized they didn't belong in the same museum. Somewhere in the distance, the wind gave up its screaming and instead settled for sulking, sending little eddies of rust-colored grit around their feet. Jace tried not to breathe too hard. It felt like if he so much as coughed, this moment would collapse under its own weight. The alien woman, taller than him by at least a good argument and a half, lowered her weapon with a stiffness that looked unnatural, as if her body was protesting the idea of not murdering him on principle. Her expression hadn't changed, but something in her eyes, those strange mirrored irises that reflected light like twin pools of liquid mercury, was cracking. "You shouldn't have that mark," she said quietly. "You can't have that mark." Jace looked at his glowing arm again. The tattoo pulsed faintly, not like a machine, but more like a heartbeat, or a beacon, or a mistake from a past life that had just come home to roost. Well, he said, scratching behind his ear, in my defense, it came with a free drink voucher at a bar on Vargas 3. Either that or serious hangover. Honestly, it's all a blur after the fourth synth margarita. She didn't laugh. At this point, he was fairly convinced her species didn't have a humor gland. What's your name? He asked, hoping for something less ominous than the one who hunts the end. She hesitated. Virelia. Jace blinked. Wow, okay. That is, a name with syllables. I like it. Flows nicely. Kinda sounds like a shampoo and a battle hymn had a baby. Still nothing. She was staring at his arm again. Then, without warning, she reached into a pouch at her hip and pulled out something that looked like a metallic acorn fused with a music box. She twisted it once, and it unfolded with a series of mechanical sighs into a hovering disc, projecting a hard light interface into the air. The interface looked ancient, like it had been designed before computers realized they didn't need to look like stained glass windows. Virelia tapped a series of alien runes. Then, with deliberate slowness, she scanned the tattoo. The interface responded instantly, flaring bright, then shifting to display something impossible. A star map, or more accurately, the star map. Jace recognized it from old Spacer's Tales, the 12-fold spiral, a constellation said to no longer exist, its stars gone supernova centuries ago. What is this? Jace asked, his voice lower now, not quite joking anymore. Virelia didn't look at him. Her fingers trembled over the interface. This is a recall beacon, she said. Genetically encoded. It was only ever keyed to one bloodline. The 12-fold echo. They were... Her voice faltered, which he didn't think was biologically possible for someone like her. They were peacekeepers, scientists, warriors, a bridge between our people, until they were destroyed. Jace rubbed his temple. Okay, but why is my skin hosting a relic from a galactic peace club that died before my grandfather's Wi-Fi password was invented? She shut the interface with a sharp motion. The disc collapsed back into its acorn shape and disappeared into her pouch. My mother was part of the Echo, she said flatly. She died in the fall. We thought all traces were lost. You're not one of us. And yet, she looked at him again, this time with less suspicion and more dread. Jace shifted uncomfortably. Look, I'm just a guy with debts, a semi-illegal cargo license, and a bad habit of picking the wrong flavor of freeze-dried noodles. I'm not some chosen relic of space history. I can barely operate a toaster without setting off the fire suppression system. Virelia's hand twitched toward her blade again. Reflex, probably. You may not be, she said, but that mark is. And now that it's activated, others will have seen it too. We need to leave. Now. Wait, Jace said, throwing up his hands. I literally just met you. You tried to kill me 2 minutes ago, and now you want to go on a spontaneous road trip through deep space with me because my arm glows? Yes. You do realize how weird that sounds, right? She stared at him, unreadable. Do you want to die here? Jace looked around. The sun was starting to dip, the shadows lengthening like claws. The wrecked freighter behind them groaned again, this time less like metal and more like something moving inside. Right, he said, patting the glowing tattoo. Guess I'm with you, Earshine. She narrowed her eyes. Never call me that again. Jace grinned. Noted. Lead the way. The ship was called the Honest Mistake, which in Jace's opinion was the most accurate name any vessel had ever had. It rattled when it idled, groaned when it accelerated, and squealed like an angry kettle when you tried to open the cargo hatch. It was the kind of ship that made you nostalgic for walking. Still, it flew. Mostly. Virelia sat across from him in the cramped cockpit, watching the stars streak past with a level of suspicion normally reserved for criminals and salad. Her armor had retracted into a sleek underlayer, dark and seamless, and her hair, charcoal black with silver strands running through it like streaks of frost, was pulled back to reveal the sharp curve of her elongated ears. You don't trust me, Jace said, propping his boots on the console and tossing a peanut-sized ration pellet into his mouth. It tasted like sawdust and regret. I get it. I don't trust me either. Virelia didn't look away from the viewport. You joke too often. That is a defense mechanism. Jace grinned. You noticed. You're learning already. She glanced at him, and for the briefest moment, he could have sworn she almost smiled. It might have also been a muscle twitch. With her, it was hard to tell. The nav console beeped, displaying a three-dimensional projection of a nearby system. He leaned forward. We're about 2 jumps from Enthera Station. I know a guy there. Real shady. Has more secrets than teeth. Perfect for looking into mysterious glowing tattoos and sudden doom prophecies. I have no need for a criminal, Virelia said. Then you're going to hate this plan. He turned to access the ship's central log, but it fizzled and sparked with dramatic flair. Jace yanked his hand back. Right, forgot. Don't touch the panel when it's humming like an angry beehive. Virelia stood and walked toward the cargo hold without another word. Jace followed, mostly out of curiosity and a little out of boredom. The cargo bay of The Honest Mistake was cluttered with the kind of items that suggested poor decision-making. Mismatched crates, a half-disassembled robot bartender named Bruce, and a crate labeled, Do Not Open Unless Already on Fire. Virelia knelt near one of the wall compartments and withdrew something wrapped in metallic silk. She unfolded it carefully, a memory cube. Old even by her standards. Its core was cracked, and the light inside pulsed erratically. She placed it on the floor between them. This was my mother's, she said. She used it to record fragments of the Echo's work, coordinates, warnings, data about the vault. Jace blinked. Wait, hold up. Vault? Like ancient superweapon or hidden treasure vault? Virelia didn't answer immediately. The cube activated with a shimmering hum, projecting a flickering hologram of a woman who looked like Virelia. Older, calmer, and with a kindness in her eyes that Virelia kept buried under about 7 layers of suspicion. This message is for the bearer of the mark, the hologram said, voice soft but urgent. If you are seeing this, then the chain is not broken. The vault must not fall. Return to Nithris. Do not trust the recording glitched. The image bent sideways. The voice warped into a mechanical shriek before cutting out completely. Virelia's jaw tightened. Well, Jace said, sitting cross-legged like they were about to do yoga and confront mortality, that wasn't ominous at all. I don't know what happened to her, Virelia muttered. She vanished during the fall. Most of the Echo did. We were told the humans betrayed them. Jace frowned. I was told humans invented breakfast cereal in sarcasm. Funny how history forgets the important bits. They sat in silence for a moment, the only sound the rhythmic wheeze of the ship's air system, which always sounded like it was sighing in disappointment. So, Jace finally said, Nithris. Never heard of it. Sounds like a cold planet with a tragic backstory. It was erased from star charts centuries ago, Virelia said. Hidden. My people believe it to be a myth. Great, Jace said, clapping his hands together. So we're chasing a mythical planet to find a mythical vault because my arm decided to glow like a cheap nightclub sign. Sounds reasonable. She looked at him again. This time, truly looked. Why are you not afraid? She asked. He paused, then grinned. Oh, I'm terrified. I just hide it behind witty banter and moderately reckless optimism. Virelia considered this. That explains a great deal. Yeah, Jace said, glancing at the memory cube still flickering faintly on the floor. It really does. The airlock hissed open with its usual sense of drama, exhaling recycled atmosphere like it wanted applause. Jace stepped into the lower deck lounge of Vakedi, The Honest Mistake, a room that tried and failed to disguise the fact that it used to be a storage bay. Someone, possibly Jace, possibly someone with even worse taste, had bolted a synthwood table to the floor, surrounded it with mismatched chairs, and covered one wall in hand-drawn star charts, half of which had, "Here be something," scrawled in the margins. Kale was there, sitting awkwardly on the edge of the bench like someone who had just remembered they were part chair. He had awakened 12 hours ago and hadn't spoken much since. Understandable, considering he had been in stasis for 3 centuries and probably still thought entertainment meant holographic puppet theater. Jace tossed him a ration bar. Try that. It's the least offensive flavor we have. Mystery grain number 4. Kale sniffed it. This smells like compressed fungus. Correct. Bonus points if it tastes like betrayal. Virelia entered behind them, expression as neutral as ever. She glanced at Kyle, then at Jace, then pointedly not at the ration bar. He remembers anything yet? Jace shrugged. Only that he hates gluten substitutes. Kale took a bite and winced. I remember fragments, names, symbols, a place, the vault. I think I died there, or was supposed to. Well, that's cheery, Jace said. Nothing like breakfast and metaphysical trauma. Kale closed his eyes. The faint glow of his tattoo, a spiral identical to Jace's and Virelia's, brightened for a second before dimming again. Do you know what it means? Jace asked. The mark, the memory cube, what did she call it? 12-fold echo. Kale opened his eyes, voice low and raspy. It was an accord, a unity forged between species after the oracles fell. We were meant to preserve what was left, not just knowledge, harmony, balance. We were the bridge. Virelia's face darkened slightly. And yet, it fell. Kale nodded. Because of love, or so I was told. Jace blinked. Love? That's unexpected. I mean, in most galactic collapses, it's usually greed, pride, or some catastrophic miscalculation involving wormholes and dairy products. Kale said nothing. Just looked haunted. Virelia turned away and activated a star map on the central table. It hummed to life, casting flickering constellations across their faces. At the center, Nitharus, the planet that shouldn't be. There, she said, pointing, the signal originated from a dead zone. It shouldn't exist. Which means it definitely does, Jace replied. Things that shouldn't exist have a habit of being both inconvenient and real. As if to emphasize his point, the ship jolted. A low, throbbing alarm began to buzz. Not the scary one, but the mildly inconvenient one. The one that usually meant space weather or you forgot to close the snack drawer before liftoff. Proximity alert, Virelia said already at the cockpit. Something's tracking us. Jace followed, muttering, Great. Can't we go one day without getting chased by cosmic mysteries? The view screen blinked to life, revealing a small, sleek ship, unmarked, matte black, moving like a predator that had already skipped lunch. Let me guess, Jace said. Not one of your people? Virelia stared. Number worse. It's a time tether. Shadow class. It's following the tattoo's signal. Jace's jaw dropped. Time tether? As in, time manipulating ship? That's a real thing? It's banned tech, she said. Only remnants of the betrayers still use them. Kale rose slowly, eyes narrowing. He's found us. He was one of us once. One of the Echo. Noun. He harvests. Harvests, Jace repeated. Like data or like organs? Both. Jace sighed. Perfect. Can't wait to meet this guy. The ship shuddered again as the enemy drew closer, its outline shifting unnaturally, like it couldn't decide which second it belonged to. Jace gripped the console. All right, he said. Let's outrun a time ship in a garbage freighter held together with duct tape and bad decisions. Virelia locked eyes with him. You're insane. He grinned. Thank you. Now punch it. Jace never thought he'd hear a ship scream, but the honest mistake was currently making a sound that could only be described as existential agony in D minor. The hull rattled like a migraine. Warning lights pulsed in every color of the regret spectrum, and something in the floor panels had started thumping rhythmically, as if the ship were having a minor panic attack of its own. Virelia was at the controls, hands flying across the navigation grid with mechanical precision. We can't outrun a time tether, she said without looking back. Its drive slips between temporal pockets. It's not chasing us. It's waiting for us to arrive. Jace blinked, strapped into the co-pilot's chair, with an expression that was trying its best to remain sarcastic but was starting to lean toward alarmed. Okay, but if it's waiting for us, can we send it a note that we're canceling all future appointments? Maybe fake our own deaths? Or better yet, realistically fake our deaths? That's commitment. Behind them, Kale stood silent, eyes locked on the trajectory curve of the Tether-class ship on the screen. The ship wasn't just following, it was sinking, mirroring their movements like a reflection that didn't want to be recognized. It's aligning, Kale murmured. It's trying to fold us into a parallel memory loop. That doesn't sound like a fun loop, Jace said. That sounds like one of those loops where I end up talking to a slightly more disappointed version of myself. Kale's eyes glowed faintly now, the mark on his forearm pulsing in synchrony with Jace's. We need to jump. To where? Varelia asked, voice calm but sharp. We don't have coordinates for Nithris yet. The system is cloaked. Jace dug into the side panel, pulling out an old flickering data chip that looked like it had been chewed on by a small animal with electrical anxiety. Remember my shady friend from Enthuris Station? Gave me this years ago in exchange for not turning him in for smuggling gelatinous bees. He jammed it into the console. Said it pointed to a dead world that refuses to be mapped. Sound familiar? Virelia glanced at him like she was reconsidering every life decision that led to this moment. Still, the nav system blinked, then chimed with unexpected enthusiasm. Coordinates accepted, the computer said cheerily. Warning, destination may not exist. Proceed anyway? Jace grinned. Always. The stars outside twisted as the ship's drive began to charge, pulling gravity and reason along for the ride. Virelia strapped herself in. Kale simply closed his eyes. The jump hit them like a sideways heartbeat, an instantaneous lurch through a place that smelled faintly of ozone and déjà vu. For a second, the honest mistake ceased to exist, or perhaps it existed everywhere at once. When the ship slammed back into coherence, the silence that followed was so complete it felt wrong. Outside, Nithris loomed. It wasn't a planet, it was a secret that had forgotten how to stay buried. Black and violet clouds churned above a surface jagged with obsidian peaks and silver canyons. Lightning arced between monoliths, not from weather, but from sheer temporal instability. The planet shimmered at the edges, flickering between frames of reality like it was buffering. Jace blinked. I have questions, like all of them. Virelia leaned forward. Her voice had softened, almost reverent. This is it, the Echo's last station. The vault lies beneath the ashen spires. Kale stirred. It won't be unguarded. Of course it wouldn't. That would have been too convenient. The ship trembled again, this time from something not mechanical, a psychic pressure, like a memory trying to claw its way into the present. Jace clutched his head. Anyone else hearing whispering? Virelia nodded. It's the vault. It remembers. I barely remember my locker code, Jace muttered. I'm not equipped for memory-based architecture. The descent was rough. The ship fought them all the way down, protesting each meter like it was negotiating terms of surrender. But they made it. The honest mistake landed in a crevice between two jagged spires. A field of luminous dust swirled outside, hovering midair like stardust frozen in thought. Jace, still strapping on a vest with more pockets than purpose, turned to the others. Okay, so what's the plan? We walk into the ancient memory vault, unlock the secrets of a long-lost civilization, and hope no one gets possessed by a glowing ghost librarian? Virelia loaded her sidearm. Roughly. Kale opened the hatch. Cold light poured in, and with it, the sound of something that wasn't quite wind. Something older. Jace sighed. Of course, vaults never come with brochures. The light outside wasn't light, not really. It shimmered like memory, pale and silver, casting no shadows and making the obsidian cliffs of Nithris seem suspended in thought rather than anchored in matter. Jace stepped onto the ground and immediately regretted it. The soil, or whatever passed for it, had the consistency of fine ash and the temperature of a freezer's back wall. His boots sank half an inch and hissed softly, like they were apologizing for existing here. This place feels like it's waiting for something, he said, checking his scanner, which had promptly decided to turn itself off. Again, probably not us. Definitely not good news. Virelia moved silently beside him, her long ears twitching slightly as if catching sounds Jace couldn't hear. Her hand hovered near her sidearm. "It's not just waiting," she murmured. "It's listening." Behind them, Kale walked with the eerie calm of someone used to existing on the edges of time. The mark on his forearm, so like Jace's and Varelia's, was pulsing again, but slower now, rhythmic, like it had found its song. They moved deeper into the ashen spires, each formation taller than a skyscraper and shaped like cathedral bones. Strange glyphs etched themselves across the rock as they passed, luminous lines surfacing where none had been before. Jace pointed at one. "So are these runes or just really angry space graffiti?" Kale didn't answer. He was staring at a towering arch up ahead, its curve bent impossibly inward, forming a gateway that shimmered at the edges like a heat mirage. Inside it was darkness, not empty, but compressed. Something behind it breathed in a way that had no sound but plenty of presence. Jace squinted. "That looks like a terrible idea. We're walking through it, aren't we?" "Yes," Virelia said, stepping forward. "Fantastic." The moment they passed beneath the arch, the world changed. Not exploded, not melted, shifted. The cold was gone. So was gravity. Jace floated for a second, limbs flailing, before a gentle field snapped him into place like a marble on velvet. Stars, old ones, drifted past his eyes, each blinking a memory, a name, a face he didn't know but somehow did. They were inside the vault. The chamber was vast, impossible to measure. Walls were an abstract concept here. The architecture felt interpretive. Jace saw a staircase where Kale saw a bridge. Virelia walked on, nothing like it was something. "It's reacting to our minds," Kale said. "We shape it." "Oh, good," Jace muttered. "I hope it enjoys chaotic breakfast food and unresolved emotional issues." At the center of the space hovered a crystalline node, as tall as a person and shaped like a spiral pulled inward. Energy bled from its edges, thin strands of blue and gold light weaving through the air like spider silk. They pulsed in time with the tattoos on their arms. "This is the core," Virelia said. Her voice was quieter now, respectful, as if afraid to speak too loudly in a library where the books could erase you. Kale reached toward it, fingers brushing one of the light threads. Images exploded across the vault, holograms, memories, echoes of the echo. Battlefields burning, humans and aliens standing side by side in unity. A star system crumbling into war. And at the heart of it all, a woman with long ears and eyes like dusk, raising her hand in peace and being struck down. Virelia flinched. "That's my mother." The memory shifted. The betrayer appeared, cloaked, faceless, but somehow familiar. Jace leaned closer. "That silhouette, why does it look like—" Then the vault screamed. Not a sound, but a pressure, deep and ancient, like the planet itself was groaning. A ripple tore across the space, and the air, or whatever passed for it, warped. The memory images shattered like glass, reforming into something new. A warning, a glimpse of a future. The betrayer unmasked, the universe fractured, the vault burning from within. Kale staggered. "He's already begun. He's using the fragments to rewrite fixed points." Virelia drew her weapon. "We stop him here." Jace raised an eyebrow. "Sure. And how exactly do we fight someone who edits reality like a bored author?" Kale answered, voice hollow. "By anchoring ourselves in truth." Jace blinked. "Well, I've got a few truths. I'm confused, mildly terrified, and deeply underqualified." The vault pulsed again. A door opened in the far wall. Real this time. Heavy, metallic, shaped with the echo's crest. Inside, something waited. Jace sighed, loading his blaster. "If this door leads to a cheerful lounge with free snacks, I will personally write the universe an apology letter." They stepped through. The final confrontation had begun. The chamber beyond the door was not a room. It was a convergence point. Space folded inward, time stretched like skin over a drum. The floor didn't exist, and yet it held their steps. Stars wheeled slowly across the black ceiling, distant and disapproving. At the center, standing atop a fractured platform that hovered as if gravity were a polite suggestion, was the betrayer. He looked almost human, tall, lean, his features familiar in that uncanny way that set Jace's instincts crawling. He wore the crest of the 12-fold echo on his chest, but the light of it flickered, corrupted, as if remembering what it once stood for made it hurt. Jace took a step forward, boots echoing in a space where echoes shouldn't exist. "You're a little overdressed for a betrayal." The betrayer turned, and Jace saw his own face. Not identical, but close. Bone structure, mouth, even the same crooked nose he'd broken on a cargo hatch when he was 12. But older, sharper, eyes that had seen too much and filed it all away like receipts for bad decisions. "Of course," Jace muttered, "the universe would give me an evil twin. Classic move." "You are the shadow of me," the man said, voice like velvet stretched over metal. "One of hundreds scattered through time. But you lived, and so did the mark." Kale stepped beside Jace, face grim. "He was once called Elion, the Echo's archivist. He turned on us when the vault refused him full access. He believed knowledge should be rewritten, controlled." Elion's eyes flashed. "You call it betrayal. I call it editing. The universe is bloated with suffering. Why not trim the worst chapters?" Virelia raised her blaster. "You murdered my mother." "I freed her," Elion said. "She was chained to order, to balance. She would have lived to see it all unravel." The vault pulsed behind them. It responded not just to thought, but to conviction, emotion, choice. The Jace stepped forward. His hand was shaking, but he kept his voice steady. "I've seen your version of peace. Burning planets, collapsing timelines. You're not editing pain. You're bottling it and selling it under a different name." Elion tilted his head. "And you think a scavenger, a ghost, and a half-soldier can stop me?" Jace exhaled. "Honestly? Number. But I've got really stubborn friends, and a stupidly persistent moral compass." With that, he raised his arm. The tattoo flared, this time not alone. Virelia's and Kale's marks ignited in unison, casting light like a memory reasserting itself into the present. The vault responded. Tendrils of energy reached out, wrapping around their wrists like curious vines. The ground cracked. Elion raised his hand, and reality shifted. The chamber bending around his will, turning their memories against them. Jace saw his father again, the empty eyes, the words he never got to say. He saw himself failing, falling, giving up. But he gritted his teeth. "Nice trick," he said, "but I know who I am now." He pressed his palm to the vault core. There was a flash, pure, soundless, blinding. Then silence. When vision returned, Elion was on his knees. The vault hummed with a low, resonant harmony. The corruption was gone. The mark on Jace's arm faded gently to silver. Kale touched his chest, expression peaceful. "The loop is closed." Jace stepped back, breathing hard. "Is it over?" Virelia lowered her weapon. "It is." The vault pulsed one final time. A door opened, not physical, but possible. A new pathway, a message carried on thought. Guardians still remain. Kale turned to them, smiling faintly. "I have to go. The vault still needs a voice." "You sure?" Jace asked. "We've got snacks. Old ones, but still technically food." Kale chuckled. "You carry chaos like it's a gift. Stay unpredictable." And then he was gone, folded into the light, the way memories sometimes fade but never vanish. They returned to the honest mistake. In silence. As they left Netheris, the planet shimmered, then slowly vanished from all instruments, once again hidden, waiting. Later, as stars wheeled outside and the ship rumbled comfortingly, Jace stood by the viewport. Virelia joined him. "You've changed," she said. He smiled, tired but lighter. "I guess I finally stopped running." "You were brave," she added. "Please don't spread that around," Jace said. "Ruins my brand." She laughed. Actually laughed. Jace stared at her. "Did you just—" "Don't ruin it," she warned, smiling faintly. He looked back at the stars. They seemed quieter now. He wasn't a hero, but he had done something that mattered. And in the vast, unruly mess of space, that was enough.